What if I told you that the goal of a great financial forecast isn't to be right? Seriously. What if that relentless chase for perfect accuracy is not just a waste of time, but a deep, fundamental misunderstanding of what a prediction is even for? Let's dive into this, because we're about to uncover a shift in thinking that separates the merely adequate from the true masters of adaptation.
You know, this line from reliability engineering just perfectly captures the central paradox of it all. Think about it. By the time you have enough data for a perfectly accurate prediction, the moment to make a decision has already slammed shut. The one piece of information that guarantees you'll make the right call only arrives after it's too late to act on it. What you're left with is perfect hindsight and absolutely zero utility.
So, this is the big question, isn't it? If chasing perfect accuracy is like chasing a ghost, what should the real objective be? The answer, it turns out, isn't about hitting some specific number. No, it's about building a process that lets us make the best possible decisions today, right now, in the face of uncertainty we just can't get rid of.
And this right here, this is the new frame of mind we need. We have to shift away from that simple black and white question of accuracy. Was it right or wrong? And start asking a much deeper, more profound question. Was the forecast trustworthy? The focus moves from the outcome to the process. Could you actually bet on it?
The formal sort of mathematical name for this trustworthiness is calibration. And it's a really beautiful, simple idea. A forecaster is perfectly calibrated if, over the long haul, all the things they said had a 30% chance of happening, well, they actually happened about 30% of the time. It's the ultimate integrity check. Does your stated confidence actually match up with reality?
Now here's the crucial part. Calibration is not just some statistical curiosity. It is an absolute economic powerhouse. Think about a big retail company. If the sales forecast is calibrated, the logistics team knows exactly how much to order. Marketing can plan their campaigns. Finance can manage cash flow with real confidence. A calibrated forecast becomes this trusted currency that everyone in the organization can use to act optimally without needing to add their own messy, expensive safety nets or second-guess the numbers. Trust literally becomes efficiency.
Okay, so if calibration is the goal, how do we actually know if we're hitting it? How do we measure the quality of a forecast beyond just saying, yep, it was right, or nope, it was wrong? Well, to really get it, we need to basically dissect a forecast, see what it's made of. The experts don't just look at the final number, they break it down into its core parts to see where it truly succeeded or failed. The main tool for this is something called the Breyer score, which is really just a fancy way of measuring the accuracy of a probability forecast. But the magic is that you can break it down into 3 pieces. First, you've got uncertainty. That's just the inherent randomness of the world, the stuff we can't control. And then you have the 2 parts we can control: reliability, which is our calibration, our integrity, and resolution, which you can think of as our courage, the guts to make a sharp, decisive call. Let's start with reliability, because it is the absolute foundation. I mean it. If your reliability is bad, nothing else matters. It means there's a systemic bias baked into your process. Maybe you keep saying there's a 90% chance of something happening, when in reality, it's closer to 70%. That gap, that's a failure of trust, and it makes the forecast fundamentally unusable.
But here's the thing. Reliability alone isn't enough. You also need resolution. This is the measure of insight, of sharpness. It's the courage to say something other than, well, it'll probably be about average. A forecast with high resolution is bold. It's decisive. It pushes probabilities towards 0% or 100%. A truly great forecast is both reliable and sharp.
And this is exactly where the elegant theory of forecasting crashes head-on into the messy, complicated reality of human psychology. Because it turns out that balancing reliability and resolution is incredibly difficult for our brains to do.
This is the core tension right here. On one hand, you could be a calibrated fence sitter. You're perfectly reliable because all your forecasts are a non-committal 50-50. You're never technically wrong, but you are completely and utterly useless. On the other hand, you could be the sharp overachiever, making bold, decisive calls that are unfortunately systematically overconfident and just plain wrong. The real art is finding that sweet spot in between.
The hard truth, the one we have to face, is that the biggest obstacle to great forecasting isn't a lack of data or a slow computer, it's us. The most damaging errors come from these predictable, repeatable flaws in our own thinking.
We're wired for certain failures. Overconfidence makes us issue forecasts with 90% certainty when we should really be saying 70%, and that directly wrecks our calibration. Confirmation bias makes us cherry-pick data that supports our pet theories and ignore everything else. And hindsight bias, oh, that stops us from learning from our mistakes because we just tell ourselves we knew it all along. But here's the powerful, optimistic turn in the story. If our cognitive failures are predictable, that means they are also correctable. We can't rewire our brains, but we absolutely can design systems and processes that account for our flaws.
This is the key insight for any organization. Stop focusing only on the final outcome, the final number. Instead, start ruthlessly auditing the process. You have to treat forecasting not as some individual art form, but as an organizational capability that needs to be engineered for self-correction.
A really powerful tool for this is the forecast value added audit. Think of it like putting every step of your forecasting process on trial. Let's go back to that retail company. First, you'd create a super simple statistical baseline, maybe just a moving average of past sales. Then, you track every single time a human analyst overrides that baseline, maybe because they think a new marketing campaign will boost sales. And finally, you measure it. Did that human touch actually make the forecast better or worse? FVA gives you the cold, hard data to answer that question.
And this is the profound link that ties it all together. When an organization fails to audit its process, when it doesn't run checks like FVA, it creates a vacuum where there's no objective feedback. And in that vacuum, our cognitive biases like overconfidence just flourish, completely unchecked. That cognitive failure then shows up as a statistical failure, poor calibration. The process failure is the root cause of everything.
So we're left with this final kind of mind-bending thought. We started by asking what the goal of a great forecast is if it isn't to be right. And what we've discovered is that the entire endeavor, it's really a mirror. What if the path to becoming a better forecaster, to building trust, to fighting bias, to designing systems that can adapt, what if it isn't about conquering the uncertainty out there, but about understanding and mastering the predictable patterns of our own mind?